Hey there. So this is kind of the first video in a series of videos. It's just gonna be me talking, ranting, discussing things that are particular to comic books and comic book pop culture. Now I know there's 100,000 channels, a bajillion videos out there discussing comic books, comic book movies, and the such like that. But the wonderful thing about internet and YouTube is that everyone out there has a different take, a different opinion on things. And I've had a lot of people just ask me personally, what do you think about this comic? What do you think about this? And not to waste too much time introducing this video, but I figured, I was doing a comic book blog for a while, Comic Book Losers, and it's just, writing is not my forte. So I figured, hey, maybe doing a video would be a lot easier conveying my thoughts. So I want to start off with the Suicide Squad. Now, the Suicide Squad, there's a movie coming out. It's my favorite comic. I'm just gonna put that one out there. It's been my favorite comic for years. It's been my favorite comic before a movie got announced. I fell in love with it because of the character Deadshot. Deadshot's been around since a super long time. I first read him, off the pages of Suicide Squad and Secret Six. Different writers have had different takes, but generally, he's been a very, very good, solid character that I haven't really seen too many missteps with. And, I'm pretty lucky to say that this once obscure character is now going to be in a major motion picture. It's very, very exciting. It's like being that guy who was a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy when no one else knew what it was. And there's always going to be the element of, yeah, I'm a little spiteful when, your favorite property all of a sudden becomes really, really popular. But in the end, this is really good. It means that finally DC is going to actually care about this, like, once just relatively considered small comic. Now, I don't want to waste too much time. I already realized I'm 2 minutes into the video. So, I'm going to hit the beats and then I'll tell you what my thoughts. Now, the origins of the Suicide Squad came in a 6-issue miniseries titled Legends that it was from 1986 to 1987. The beats were written by John Ostrander and the script was done by Len Wein. There was a rather huge creative team on it, but basically what the book was about, it wasn't focused on the Suicide Squad. I'll get to that point. But basically, the story plays out kind of like the Book of Job. You've got Phantom Stranger making a deal with Darkseid about basically the public's perception of superheroes. Right up until this time, everyone was just like, hey, these guys are super, super great. And I love what this book does is to make, show the public criticizing the dangers of what superheroes actually do. Now, whether in this instance it's true or not, the public perception is being definitely manipulated by Darkseid. He sent one of his agents, Godfrey, down to basically be like a talk show host to basically talk people into being afraid of the heroes and manipulating different events to frame like Captain Marvel for murder when he wasn't. And all of this leads to Ronald Reagan declaring martial law and putting a ban on his superhero activities. All while Darkseid sent down Brimstone, this huge fiery monster, to basically attack the populace, and with superheroes not being able to do anything, who else is going to do it? So the government calls on Amanda Waller to do something about it, and she starts the program Task Force X, which essentially is a group of convicts with no hope of release being tasked with do suicide missions for the government, and if they survive, they get to go free. Now, this comic starts off very differently from the way we know it. Nowadays the bomb is in their neck, and if they escape, they explode. They are not allowed to leave the prison whatsoever. When the comic started, they just had a bomb around their wrist, which really isn't that terrifying. I mean, yeah, you lose your hand, but people lose hands all the time. And even Captain Boomerang at the beginning of the comic was really allowed to have his own place, his own apartment, so he didn't have to live in the prison cell. But eventually the comic shaped to be a very good critique on the comic world and like relevant real world situations. It's one of the reasons why I loved this comic so much, that it tackles like events, current events that are going on right now. The comic is best written. It's when it's best relevant to that period, dealing with, intergovernmental relations, also dealing with what superheroes do, and it gives you a chance to see what other heroes do around the world, not just in the United States. A lot of the comic was dealing with relations to stuff in fictional countries or set in the Middle East, which, that was a conflict in the late 80s and still today tends to be a conflict. So it still has a bit of relevancy. The other thing this comic did was develop pathos for these villains, these silly C team villains that literally had no character outside of their like tricks or their weapons and who their adversary was. Were turned into these real people. In a sense, you were able to more identify with these characters, with these emotional problems, with these like detailed backstories than you were to the heroes. The initial team, the team lineup always changed, but the core of it was Bronze Tiger was the leader of the team. Then you had Deadshot, who was one of the more capable members. Captain Boomerang was like a loudmouth guy who always just got into fights with everybody. He was just not a good guy. Not that any of them were good guys, but Bronze Tiger wasn't even really a villain. He was just trying to almost a volunteer, atoning for his sins. Then you had Enchantress, who could, was a Cindy Moon, who's just a normal person. No, it's June Moon. I'm sorry. Cindy Moon is something else. Just a normal person who gets consumed by this magical being and evil witch basically, who she could only control for so long until the witch goes rampant. Then you'd have other members that would cycle through. People would die, people would come and go, but the core of the group was Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, Bronze Tiger for the most part, with Rick Flag Jr. Now, where this is interesting is this is not the first Suicide Squad comic. Back in 1959, you had the comic The Brave and the Bold. This comic had Rick Flag, a military officer, leading a team of other soldiers, basically just doing suicide missions during wartime. They did things like go to islands and fought dinosaurs. One of my favorite modern renditions of them is in The New Frontier. In the book, it really touches on the group a lot, and it's a lot of fun, and you even get a hint of Rick Flag Jr. as a child talking about his dad, who his dad makes a sacrifice. Now, essentially, in this comic, Rick Flag Jr. Carries on the legacy by leading this team. He's a volunteer, a soldier for the U.S. government, not a villain, so he continues on. Another thing this comic did that was really, really cool was that it saved Barbara Gordon. Around this time, Alan Moore had released the book The Killing Joke, and The Killing Joke originally was supposed to be not canon. Now, I could always do a video about my thoughts on The Killing Joke. Personally, I do think, for the most part, it is a well-written book, except for the problematic scenario of it using Batgirl to be sacrificed for Batman. Now, there's more to that. I have a lot of thoughts. I could do an hour-long video on that situation. But the core of it is that Barbara is crippled and almost killed off by DC. Now, John and Mary Ostrander put her in the pages of Oracle. Now, you had no idea who Oracle was. You just knew Oracle was someone working for Amanda Waller, who was basically a super tech genius who was orchestrating from behind the scenes. And a while later, was eventually introduced to be Barbara, and then Barbara went on to do different things like starting Birds of Prey, helping Batman and Robin, and then leading and training the third Batgirl, Stephanie Brown, right before the 2011 reboot, and where Batgirl finally Barbara became Batgirl again. But another thing to take from the Suicide Squad is I think that it's one of the best world building books for DC. And that's why I think it was really cool that they're doing a movie for it so soon instead of like waiting to develop the villains to do the movie. It gives you a chance to see the DC world without giving you too much backstory and the ability to focus on the characters. Now, there in the reboot 2011, there was the Flashpoint paradox. After that happened, the New 52 reboot happened, and the Suicide Squad got to be a part of that. The Suicide Squad book wasn't always an ongoing. You had the initial run from John and Mary Ostrander, then you would see them pop up in other books, Superboy here and there. Then you had like a really, really weird series in the 2000s of the very 2000 art style. It only went for like 12 issues. There was like a trade that was kind of like supposed to be in the pages of the original Suicide Squad book, which is it's a fun read, and there's some really good characterization on there, some really great moments from Deadshot and Captain Boomerang that I really like. And then Deadshot joined the Secret Six, and that was the majority of a lot of his stuff doing. The Secret Six is very much like the Suicide Squad. Now, in 2011, the reboot starts off with the Prime members being Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Jesus, I'm blanking. Those are the pretty much the only two characters that I really cared about when this reboot started. Um, and the New 52 run of the Suicide Squad is very rough. It's super roller coaster. It's super up and down. There's a lot of really great ideas that just in practice didn't really work. It suffered from this like ever cycling creative team. It'd be like every 3 or 4 issues you'd get a new writer or you'd get a new artist, and no one could really sync up to know what they were doing. And they did a lot of creative stuff with the origin stories. Deadshot's old origin story was that he came from a rich family in Gotham, a lot of tragic stuff dealing with his family. An incident happens between his abusive parents and his brother that he loved a lot, and he accidentally shoots and kills his brother, and he vows to never miss a bullet ever again, and that's how Deadshot is born. And he doesn't become an assassin straight off. In his debut in the 50s, he came out as a trick shooter, basically wanting to have fun and replace Batman, if you will, kind of a cheesy one-off villain. Then in the 70s, he came back out again as a villain. Then Batman put him away, and then he came back out as in the Suicide Squad, where you really got to get developed. But kind of the initial core concept of the character is that he's bored, and that's why he does what he does. He's not inherently evil. He's just a very emotionally complex character, not motivated by the same thing other villains are motivated by. He becomes good at shooting and killing people. He doesn't feel remorse, but he doesn't feel pleasure either. So he's not like your typical serial killer. He just is a gun for hire who does what he does. And weirdly enough, his biggest motivations are his family. There was a great miniseries that John Ostrander wrote that were from the pages of the Suicide Squad, written in the early 90s. Might even been in 1889, 90. I don't remember the year on that one exactly, so don't quote me on this one. But there's only 2.5 Deadshot miniseries out right now. One that's currently going for the New 52 version. But in this miniseries, more stuff comes up about his family. His son. He has a son from a divorced mother who's kidnapped. Basically Deadshot's mom, Floyd's mom, hires a bunch of thugs to kidnap her son or his son. And during this incident, there was a pedophile that was kind of with the thugs, and the pedophile rapes and kills Deadshot's son, which pushes Deadshot over the edge, and he just murders everyone. Just gone. Like, he was so angry, destroyed, damaged, because there's only few things that he actually cared about, and his son was one of those things. And this starts to develop his character into a character that doesn't care about dying. He's not necessarily suicidal. He'll never put himself in harm's way, and he wants to die an awesome death. Basically, he wants to be that guy. Like, yeah, if I'm gonna die, it's gonna be fucking kick ass. And he doesn't want to die a punk ass death, but he doesn't want So that's kind of a weird motivation, and that's one of the reasons why he sticks with the Suicide Squad. At a certain point, he gets a sense of fulfillment from the Suicide Squad, even though he hates Amanda Waller. In a way, like Amanda Waller and Deadshot are such an awesome dynamic and a great foil with each other. And actually, that was one of the best things about the New 52 was their relationship more closely studied. Because in New 52, there's no Rick Flag. He just doesn't exist. And they kind of combined Amanda Waller with Rick Flag a little bit. In this version, Amanda Waller is younger, more fit and shaped, and she's got more combat experience. It's like basically like they combined the idea of Amanda Waller with Nick Fury and put it into one character, which there are things I love and things I hate about it. She really fits into what Arrow did with the character, like the whole stern, like, I'm not going to take any shit, I am the wall. But there was something to say about the old Amanda Waller, where she was a large woman who didn't use brute strength to be commanding, but it was her sheer willpower and sheer determination that made her even one of the most ferocious enemies of the Justice League. And I love Viola Davis casting. I could not have asked for better casting for her. I don't know who else I would have cast in that role. It was like Viola Davis was born to play that role, and I'm really excited to see what her does. And her voice is very similar to whoever was doing the voice acting for the Justice League cartoon show, which is another great way they showed Amanda Waller and exactly how that character is and how she interacts with the government and the Suicide Squad and the Justice League being an enemy, but also someone who fears the Justice League but doesn't necessarily want to destroy them, just wants to be able to counteract them. Um, so getting to what the New 52 did differently is that Deadshot's origin story was, and I don't want to get too much into it, but his origin story is basically turned into a tragic orphan story. He was part of a poor family, and a room next door, drug deal went bad. Bullets came flying, shot everyone in his family except for him. He found a gun. He only had a few bullets to make it count, so he really just focused hard and became a really good shooter. Then when he grew up, got his revenge. That guy hired him out and that to be a killer after he killed his men. Thus, the assassin Deadshot was born. Kind of a lame origin story. It's not very emotionally complex. It's so simple. It's lazy. And not to mention the design for Deadshot in the series, they completely changed him. He had like short, light brown hair. The armor had cod pieces, really shiny. Some artists did a great job. I mean, shit, the covers Jason Pearson did were absolutely stellar. But some artists would just make him look really, really super bad. And I don't know. I'm very particular the way I do Deadshot. I like his 2005 miniseries. 2005 miniseries is one of my favorite series about Deadshot. And really has developed the modern core of his character, including introducing his daughter, who becomes a new motivation for him. He finds out that he has a daughter, and he wants to do everything he can to protect her, and he almost stays alive pretty much the time for his daughter. And, a lot of the money that he saved gets for killing, he puts it into a foundation, which goes to his daughter and many others for children who don't have that access to education and live in poor areas. So there again, a weird, awesome motivation for Deadshot. It's like, dude, you kill people, but you still want to help out. Deadshot's one of those characters that, like, if he's not getting paid to kill somebody, he probably won't do it. There was an incident in one of the comics where he's going to assassinate a guy in Gotham, and then Batman stopped a guy that was paying Deadshot. Deadshot's like, well, I'm not getting paid, not gonna go kill the guy. And that's one of the reasons why I love Deadshot. He's complicated. He's easy to identify with, even though I'm not somebody that's gonna go out and shoot people. It's like I get it. It's like, man, I can get inside your head. That being said, there were some really awesome things about the New 52, which includes this interesting relationship between him and Harley Quinn that really makes no sense why it happened, but I love it. From Deadshot's perspective, it doesn't totally surprise me that it happens because a reoccurring theme of Deadshot is his embraciveness with sexuality. Like, he's a very sexual character. Whether he's sleeping with prostitutes in the Secret Six, he picks up with Jeanette. He definitely has that thing for, the crazy, unabridged woman who's not afraid to deal out shit. So Jeanette was this like undead banshee like character in the Secret Six, and they were either spending the issue either shooting, trying to kill each other, or having gratuitous amounts of sex. And that happens a lot with different characters throughout Deadshot's career being in the comics. Damaged love is definitely something that he deals with at the core of his character, and something I definitely kind of identify with, considering none of my relationships ever pan out more than a year, if that. And with Harley, of course, everyone's always associated with her with the Joker. What I love about what DC does is they address the fact that the Harley and Joker relationship is definitely unhealthy, and they show you that it's unhealthy. They don't throw it out the window. They show that it happened. They have backstories about it. But in the last 5 years, Harley hasn't been with Joker explicitly at all. Not one moment. She spent the entire time saying things like, I love you, but I know you're bad for me, and I want to get away from you. At one point in the Suicide Squad, during the Death of the Family arc, Harley rejects the Joker when the Joker comes chasing after her. The Joker's like, well, if you don't want me, I'm going to kill you. I could just find a new version of you. You're nothing to me. She escapes and goes back to the Suicide Squad. But back to the Harley and Deadshot dynamic is, they're both the two core members of the Suicide Squad. They make it work. They're the most effective, even though Harley's unpredictable. Deadshot kind of keeps her in check, and they have an attraction towards each other. On one of their missions, they end up hooking up. In the Assault on Arkham cartoon, Deadshot and Harley hook up. Uh, Unfortunately, as the New 52 Suicide Squad progressed, it's like the rest of the writers forgot that those happened, or it's not like they ever read the issues. And it wasn't until this recent miniseries for Deadshot that it was even touched that they had something, that they had chemistry. Because, like I said, there have been some terrible writers for the Suicide Squad in the New 52. I recommend, reading the beginning of it to get an idea of what the squad is about, but then you can jump ahead to Volume 4, which collects issues 20 through 23. Jason Pearson did all the cover art. I can't remember off the top of my head who does the interiors, but Alice Cott writes it, and man, does he get the idea of the Suicide Squad. With the artists, they were in sync with each other. The art managed to be funny but dark, and the same with the writing. It's like they played off of whatever each other was doing. Like whatever who was doing the scripts, the Alice Cott doing the scripts. Really, his artist got what he wanted to convey, and that was really cool. And it was definitely interesting storytelling. Because it doesn't all start off. It's not linear. It starts off at one point, builds off of it, flashes back to it. Then when you get to the actual plot, you're like, damn, that was good. And they played off of each character's strength. They played off of each character's pathos and their relationships with each other. I would say, that's the last time Harley and Deadshot have that chemistry that I really enjoyed about them up until this recent miniseries. It looks like in the movie they're going to be touching on that, which I'm really, really excited about. Now, I'm going to try to move on here before I get way too long. Harley is one of my favorite things about adding to the Suicide Squad. She is a fan favorite character. I realize it is popular to like her, but she's really easy to like. She's fun and she's violent. She's complex and emotional. And my favorite instances of her are her not being incredibly just batshit insane. I think that's what Sean Ryan was like the largest writer, like the most continuous writer for the Suicide Squad. And yes, his issues got better when he started the new Suicide Squad. They like rebooted the comic within the New 52, but the first 8 issues were just garbage. It was like the worst writing. They just wrote Harley as like manic without anything that made her good of a character. An issue like this new arc started called Monsters, where it dealt with the idea of like, are we actually killers? Are we actually people? Can we become better than who we are? And it introduced the Reverse Flash to the team, which like at first I was like, this is dumb. But I don't want to spoil anything, but like the Reverse Flash is something in the annual that touched me. I like, holy crap, I don't know shit about this character because apparently it's Daniel West, not Eobard Thawne. Um, and like the moment that it happens, I was like, wow, this is what the Suicide Squad is about. The art was great with Philip Briones taking over eventually in the comic. That was like the strongest part of it. Uh, but now currently you've got Juan Ferreira and Tim Seeley writing the book until August. Or, well, Juan Ferreira is doing the art. And they're great. Tim Seeley gets the characters. He's fun. He's upbeat. He actually reminds me of Alice Cott writing in a lot of ways. Juan Ferreira has a lot softer of an art style. It's not as like anime or cartoonish. A lot of the other artists are. There's a lot of watercolors, a lot of softer tones, a lot of more grim tones, and it's really really interesting to see that with Tim Seeley's writing. I will admit I love Juan Ferreira's art, but I was really sad to see Philip Briones go away from the book because I just love the way he drew Deadshot. And I'm really glad that by the time this book started to happen, Deadshot's mustache and dark hair came back. The only thing it needs to change is the armor, but it looks like that's not even really changing after August. I would be totally okay with something closer to the movie. I hate the reflective chromium god piece. It's just really bad. DC, get it, fix it, make it like the movie. The movie is tactical armor that makes sense for Deadshot. But anyways, it's really exciting to see what the book's gonna come twice a month. I know Jim Lee's one of the artists. I don't remember who's writing it. But I'm really confident that with DC Rebirth, they're gonna really actually make sure this book doesn't suck because there has not been consistency in this book, and it absolutely deserves it because it's a chance for DC to try to get a new audience for this really cool concept for something that has a lot of history for the DC universe. Um, and that's what I really, really want to see. Now, as far as the movie goes, things I do want to see happen, I want to see that Harley and Deadshot relationship. I know they're going to show stuff with Joker and Harley, but I really, really hope it doesn't happen the way it happened in Assault on Arkham. Assault on Arkham, they explored that Deadshot Harley relationship. And her acknowledging the Joker was bad for her. She even tries to kill the Joker at one point. But at the end of the movie, she was like, "Oh, I was just kidding. I was actually doing this all to get back with you and save you." And she goes right back to the Joker, and the Joker goes right back to beating her and making her his, like, a little puppet abuser. And I get it, it's a prequel movie to the other Batman Arkham games, but they don't exactly treat Harley very well, so I guess I couldn't really expect much from the ending of that movie, which that was a relatively decent movie. And it definitely got Captain Boomerang right, Deadshot's personality right, even though the costume sucked, and Harley was pretty much perfect right up until the end. But I really, really hope Harley does not go back with the Joker in the end, even though I'm probably in the minority in thinking that. I definitely think it's important as a narrative to show Harley and the Joker together in their relationship and how the dynamic worked, but I think it's also even more important to show how wrong and abusive that is and to let Harley become her own character. I'm tired of people saying they want Harley to be like the animated series, which I get it. I love the animated series. It's a classic, but in the end, that was not as good as Harley as she's become in the comics. There is like a couple of years of Harley in the animated series, like 10, 15 episodes. Then there's 15 years of her being in the comics where she's really developed into a different character. And that's not even aside from the costume. I like the Jester suit. I totally get it. But I love the roller derby look. It's one of my favorite things about the her newest costume, the New 52, is that whole roller derby chic look, and I'm glad that it trans over to the Suicide Squad because her first outfit was not so great. The new art for the newer books looks great. I like that they're stepping back and making her skin not look so bleached and giving her blonde hair. I want to see a domino mask get brought back. But anyways, I realize I'm ranting about things that don't matter. Things that you should definitely check out are, the old Suicide Squad books are being re-released. I know that I have Volume 1 and 2. Volume 3 might be out by now. I'm so behind on my own comics, so I'm probably behind on that. Volume 4 came out. I don't know. But the original Suicide Squad definitely need to start there. The Deadshot miniseries are both really great at knowing what the character is like. Volume 4 for the new Suicide Squad. I don't know what volume the Sean Ryan issues that actually don't suck are, but they're issues 9, 10, 11, and I think there might be 12, but it's the annual. Whatever's up to the annual is like the best Suicide Squad like comic in the last 2 years. And then currently what I think Tim Seeley is doing is really fun. Be sure to pick up it when it re-debuts in August as Suicide Squad Rebirth. It's going to be a really good jumping on point for you because I realize, like, it might be difficult to jump right in the middle, but that's also a really good one to start off with. And also, if you like that, check out the Secret Six. I'll probably do a separate video for the Secret Six. But anyways, this is my video about the Suicide Squad. I will probably redevelop my Facebook page, but it's Comic Book Losers. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that one yet. And I realize I don't have any fancy graphics. This is just me ranting, but this is my first video. So thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.